Welcome to Elena's Barre Low Impact Full Body Workouts. On this channel you find different format workouts that will help you to tone up your muscles, improve your posture, gain overall strength, endurance, balance and flexibility. Check more classes on Elena's Barre Patreon. Join us for my crazy piano practice on Sundays. We also talk about controversial topics that can trigger you. You participate in our conversations voluntarily at your own risk. Read the disclaimer in the description box. If you don't want to be mentally or physically challenged, I suggest that you skip this video. Thank you so much for your understanding. Hello, my dear friends. Welcome back to my channel. Today we have a very interesting topic. We are talking about how social media wraps and twists our reality. And I mean, not social media per se, because I view it as a tool, but how people use it. So we have Plutarch, we have Eamma, we have Stephen, and we have Nick from Christianity Unplugged. And remember, guys, to please like and subscribe if you are joining us. It's not your first time here. If you enjoy our content, let's say hi to our viewers here. Hi, Accounting Ship. Great to see you. Yeah. Remember to leave your comments, guys. Emma, what's up?
No, just saying hi to sheep.
Hi to sheep. Okay. Plutarch is right in here. Cool. Okay, guys, let's dive in straight into the topic. I feel like it's going to be a pretty long live stream. Something tells me it's going to be a pretty interesting and deep dive topic. I even asked my husband to wake up for this topic to join us. Yeah. Okay. Let's begin from the basics. Why do you think social media wraps our reality?
All right, I'll go first.
Okay.
I have lots of different. Well, why do I think it does?
Yeah.
Because, okay, I'm going to do a little bit of inside baseball here for y'all. And we were talking before the show. Now we're planning, we're getting along, but we don't record it. We don't show it. So there, I broke a little bit of the magic for what we do. Now we do that for planning purposes, and we do that for, like, just to make sure that we're all on the same page. But you guys don't see it. You guys don't know what we said. We here do not trash our users and our viewers, but I know that some people do. It's like, oh well, these people, they just don't care. So that's kind of one thing, that what you see versus what you don't see is a choice that is made not by you, the viewer, but by us, the creators. Now, there is a little bit of hubris in that, because we're deciding what you get to see and what you don't get to see. And this is what I mean by a little bit of inside baseball. So the important point for me here is, remember that just because you see it on social media doesn't mean it's everything. It was selected for you to see for whatever reason that the person decided that very likely it would make them look better to you. So a little bit of hubris there, I think.
Are you saying you're a nonconformist?
Might be just a little bit. Might be.
So I come at this from a similar perspective. It's chosen. There's a book written, I think, in the 1980s by Neil Postman. It's called "Amusing Ourselves to Death," and he talks about, essentially, it's television then, but basically the mediums, the message, what you see is chosen for you and is meant. The medium itself is not for information, but meant to entertain. So what's the purpose behind the social media? How is it selected? Who selects it? These are questions you have to ask. But the fact that everybody's on it, of course, it will shape people.
Mm-hmm.
Well, social media, and we think, hey, it started with the internet. Well, kind of. But before that, we had the media, and we had the tabloids, And before YouTube, we had forums. And before that, we had bulletin boards. And all of that is just kind of evolved. But another book, if you go way back, I think it's late 40s, it was The Authoritarian Personality. I think that's the right title. It was written by the American Jewish Committee. And it's pretty much anti-patriarch and kind of furthering this idea of feminism and pulling down the idea of the strong male. So this influence of social media is nothing new, but maybe it's more distributed now. But it is somewhat, well, maybe totally designed to do this. And it's guided too by censorship and who gets popular and who gets supported and algorithms that promote certain content creators now and shadow ban others. So, hey, you think it's a natural, organic thing? I remain unconvinced.
I don't know, Steve. I don't know if I like the implication that books are social media. Not because I can't argue with it, but because it says a lot of scary things.
Well, I'm not saying books are social media. I'm just saying if you look beneath that, so there are implications that some of where we are today has been planned out in the past. Social media is a different vehicle than books, absolutely. So we don't want to conflate the two.
No. I really like reading. Like I really like it. So but you're right. We have to be. One of the things that we have to concern ourselves with is what do we choose to consume? Because, and I think people are broadly just, I'm not going to say unconcerned, but they don't think about the fact that the algorithm so with a book, if I bought the book, there was a lot of friction between whether or not a book was popular and whether or not I would read it back in like the 1950s, because it would have to like blow up, make the New York Times bestseller list, and that would be how you knew that a book was popular. Now, the algorithm can tell me exactly how many people watched this video, for how long, which parts they watched, and it can do that for everything instantly. So what you guys choose to watch actually feeds back into the algorithm now at light speed. And for example, and I know YouTube does this, I'm fairly sure Instagram does it, but in a slightly different way. On YouTube, so Google knows who roughly my friends are. They will take the content that I watch, they will see that I'm watching it, and they will promote similar content to my friends. So when we talk about, well, who selects the content for me to watch, sadly, your friends do by what they watch. And it how that is selected varies by your social media platform, but we don't like to talk about these aspects of social media because it puts a lot more of the blame for the problem on us, the consumer. And I consume quite a bit of content. I had a stream of Heathrow Airport running last night because while I'm working, I just find the sounds of airplanes taking off and landing to be relaxing. And I'm a nerd, that's who I am. But that channel gets hours and hours of watch time. And of course, I see more airplane related content in my stream as a result of that because the algorithm knows that I'm watching that. But every morning I wake up to another video from a guy who does geopolitical content and another video from a guy who does local law content. So what you choose to watch determines what you watch, but it also determines what the algorithm thinks your network wants to watch. So if you start watching content that is not, how do I say this? That it is not sort of building up your brain, but it's confectionery content. It's emotional content that makes you feel good.
Mhm.
The algorithm's going to recommend that to other people too.
Chasing dopamine.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yes. I'll just leave it right there.
Well, let me add to that. I do the same thing. I watch a lot of things. And then, when you go to your home on YouTube, it's just giving you the same content providers all the time and things related to that.
Yeah.
And I get so frustrated. I want something new, stimulating. And every once in a while, I'll come across a new channel and I'll start looking at that or a new topic. And all of a sudden, oh, gee, the algorithm or whatever is bringing up new content.
Yeah.
And I kind of get frustrated that I can't see anything new unless I kind of stumble across it. And then the algorithm allows me to see it.
Yeah, you need to send requests to the algorithm, and if you are curious about certain topics, just start digging and you will find a lot of information on those topics.
Well, I don't get curious about topics until I know about them. That's
Yeah,
the
right.
problem.
It's chicken and the egg.
Yeah.
Which came first. And people want, they tell themselves, oh, the algorithm is predictive. It'll just tell me what I should know. No, the algorithm is completely reactive.
Mhm.
It will feed you what you ask of it. They've actually done studies on this. Like, so it was basically, they would just keep clicking on links that only matched a very certain criteria of video. And this was done on YouTube. And if you just kept clicking, the algorithm would just keep feeding you more and more extreme versions of that video until they got to the point where they were like, I forget where they ended, but they ended up with it was like a child opening presents or something. And it just ended up being this, and it was the weirdest place that they ended up. But the algorithm, it's just feeding you what you want. And I think that's something that, who shapes the narrative of social media? Hate to say it, folks, we do by what we choose to consume.
Well, and the problem is that I see with social media, I'm going to bring some stuff here. Most of the social media, who is on social media? It's women, right? Who is on Instagram? It's women. So if women don't want to be mentally challenged in any way, and we see the proof of it, I just recently told you the story of what happened. I got blocked again, guys. Yes, by one self-love guru. The problem I see with social media is that women don't want to develop their critical thinking skills. They are just so comfortable consuming this emotional bullshit that is around them, and literally everyone is feeding more and more and more of that stuff that is delusional, that is narcissistic, it's toxic. It breaks our society because most of the consumers on social media are women. Well, and men who are looking for a date and they are scrolling through some apps, right, to see like what women are posting there. Men who are supporting these toxic, delusional, narcissistic women, the Sims, they are feeding into the algorithm. They are promoting this content too, because how my husband just mentioned that you are the one who is feeding the narrative. You are the one who is choosing what you want to watch, right? So if men are desperate and they want to date, they will watch and support the toxic, delusional women out there who are promoting emotional BS. And then women are degrading, they're becoming more emotional, they're becoming more toxic, more narcissistic. These Sims don't get anything in the end,
So you're talking about like a feedback loop?
Yeah.
Well,
I saw,
that is what
I
social
saw-
media is.
I saw something that kind of illustrates this. And I'm going to have some fun with Eamma.
Okay.
This will be fun. Okay, so I was watching Better Bachelor, the Joker. I don't know if you ever watch him.
I watched him. Yeah.
But
Mhm.
yeah, he had something just yesterday. He played these clips of somebody who went out and asked women, would you rather be stranded in a forest with a random man or a random bear? So let me ask you that, Emma. Would you rather be stranded in a forest with a random man or a random bear?
Well, a man. With
Okay,
bear-
but all the
bear-
women said a bear. I don't know if they might have been from the UK, but they somehow thought they would be safer with a bear than
Yes.
with a man.
Wow.
No, because a bear would likely to eat me, and it's not going to be able to help me survive, is it? If I mean, I don't know.
But they've been told to be afraid of men. And the media tells them be afraid of men. Now, when you think about it on a logical standpoint, how many men do you encounter per day, per week? Well, let's just say 50. You have 50 brief or longer encounters. Of those 50, how many of those men tried to assault you of any type or accost you or caused you to be in fear?
Or
Well,
eat you.
0.
yeah, 0. So, but women have this idea that men are scary and dangerous, and yet they have all these circumstances throughout their week where they encounter men, and men are not dangerous. But social media tells them they should be afraid of men. So what do they go with? Oh, social media says I should be afraid of men.
Well, it's all of the relationship gurus that I have been popping up
Do they
on my
not know anything
feed.
about bears?
They might
No.
not. They might not.
That's what I'm wondering.
Well, but so the social media hijacks a psychological effect known as social proof. If
Mhm.
I see other people saying something if I see people that look like me saying something, then that thing must be true. Particularly if I see a lot of people. And so I click on more content that says that same thing. And so the algorithm feeds me more content. And then you go, oh, even more people say that this is true. Okay. And so that is another feedback loop where you can consume so much content that you literally think that all men, regardless of who they are, what their status is in the world, like a married man, like you could end up thinking that married men are the literal worst men out there if you just start clicking down the stream of all the horrible things that married men have done to women.
Mhm.
And that's all you ever see.
So it's kind of like it's what they're exposed to. So like people aren't going out in the world doing things like nature. They don't know how to interact with nature. They think all the animals are these cute, cuddly things, and people go up to
Mhm.
like a buffalo or an elk and they get wrecked.
A moose will wreck your world. Those things are,
But they look so nice.
Mhm.
Yeah.
but they're big and they're mean.
Social media tells me they're so cute and cuddly. We gotta love all the animals.
Oh, yeah. Have you ever seen a moose up close? But 6 months ago, I was driving in my semi truck and a moose crossed the road in front of me. And I hit, he was far enough away. I hit the brakes. I didn't hit him, but I'm going, holy shit. He just comes bounding out of the ditch. And you know what? If you hit a moose with a semi truck, hey, that carcass might still come up and hit your windshield. My God, do not hit a moose with a car. They are massive.
The Mythbusters actually did an episode on that. The moose took the top of the car clean off.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, no, these are big critters that will, you're a snack. Or, like you don't matter. They're not going to notice when they trample you. So,
No.
but well, that gets into the whole climate cult problem that we have is we have so marketed the earth as this tame, weak little thing that can't barely stand us humans, that we have to, that all things in all animals are they're just these cute cuddly things and they can't harm you. And then you end up with, oh well, I'd rather be stuck with a bear than a man. Like that's it ends the stuff ends in that kind of stupidity, and it's like, come on, think for a second. Yeah. But here's the problem: we say think for a second, and they do, and they still come to the same answer because they've been told that the moose is cuddly and that men bad, and that's what they've gotten on social media.
They've been told it for so many years now, so multiple generations. This kind of propaganda, it becomes your second nature. When you are exposed to it constantly, you are born with it. Yeah, it's around you. You start believing this stuff.
That's like the Troon stuff.
So to kind of build on what Plutarch was saying, yeah, there's kind of the propaganda, there's a message out there. But then when you get to social media and you start looking at things, and then the algorithm or whatever, might be even artificial intelligence, starts feeding you the same stuff, isn't that basically confirmation bias?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it is. Hadn't even thought of that.
This is why I always make sure that I follow accounts on both sides, so you get a more balanced view, because somewhere in the middle there's got to be some truth of whatever.
Whoa, hold on, wait a minute there.
I know, I'm that type, sorry.
Okay, Eamma, okay, I'm going to give you an assignment.
Oh no.
You asked for it.
You need to look up the 3 rules of logic.
Yeah, logic.
What's that?
You gotta look them up. Okay, the first rule is you got a fact and the opposite fact. Both cannot be true. They're not equivalent.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then the next one is exclusion of the middle. You got the left and you got the right. Oh, the truth must be somewhere in between. No, that does not follow. Yes, you can look at both sides, and I'm not faulting you there, but that does not mean that the truth is in the middle.
No, but you can get a more.
And the third rule is, go ahead.
I fully understand that both sides on whatever subject are both trying to push their agenda of whatever. So I'm
right, but one side might be totally correct.
Yeah.
And the other side totally wrong, or both sides might be totally wrong.
But my point is,
you can't assume that the truth lies in the middle.
I'm also not just going to take one side's word, if you know what I mean. And I like to. Yeah. I'm the sort that likes to hear both sides of an argument and make my own.
Yeah, that's good. But you can refine your thought processes a little bit more by looking up the 3 rules of logic. Okay. And then just spend some time thinking about that, and you'll be able to sift through.
Yep.
Well, I think there's
third one. Sorry,
excluded. It's called the excluded middle.
Yeah.
So the 3 laws are identity, non-contradiction, and the excluded middle. I looked it up while you guys were. Steve was explaining it. So one of the interesting things about that is, Eamma, I actually have a similar thought process to you about how I consume stuff.
Yeah.
However,
a pen.
a lot of the times, what I actually end up finding out is that neither side is right. That, but you have to sit down and be willing to say, but does this match what I see working around me? It's like the bear versus man question, because there are cases where a man can be dangerous to be around. I mean, we can have a conversation about what's happening in New York with all those women getting punched.
Yeah.
Okay. Like, so one of the things that is unfortunate about social media is that it tends to want to make everything black and white. And because of that, we tend to believe that we have to choose between the two options that are presented to us. What if instead we spent more time looking around saying, well, what if both can be true, but with a probability band? You know, the chances of getting punched in the face by a guy in New York, while currently non-zero, are very small. The chances of getting eaten by a bear are actually relatively small, but they're bigger than getting punched in the face by a guy in New York.
Yeah, well,
And
factor in the frequency and the severity of the consequences.
Yeah.
There's two factors.
right. But you have to want to think about all these things. And what I just did there was a logical, look at both sides. And so what I've frequently found is both sides have a little bit of the truth. And I can tease out a little bit of the truth by listening to both sides. And then you have to go find another side. And so the process of coming to some sort of logical observational reality is very long, and you're just going to be spending your time, okay, this, and then this, and then this. It's a lot of work. And social media promises us the ability to skip doing all that work. And our brains love that.
Yeah. Well, and it
Yes.
also okay, Nick, go ahead. Mhm.
We also need to be aware of what I call like the Hegelian philosophy of like the thesis, antithesis, and then the synthesis. So just because you think you have two views, so you see one, you see the other, we automatically want to think like we want to synthesize. And so what that actually ends up becoming is the modern conservative movement, even in the churches, where it's a ever leftward drift.
Yes. Well, because there's an interesting reason for that. Because and this gets into how we can and how people stick their thumbs on the scales of social media. I can, if I know the Hegelian dialectic, I think is what it.
Yeah.
Yeah. If I know the Hegelian dialectic, I can stick my thumb on the scale in whichever direction I think we should go. And I know that people are going to go one side, synthesis, and then I move one side, and then they're going to go, okay, one side, synthesis, but the middle ends up shifting left. And we call that the Overton window. Right? Yeah. Yes, Nick. Yay. So we have to be careful of thinking that all things are binary extremes.
Mm-hmm.
The truth is, it's ironic to think about this, but the truth is a unary extreme. There's one truth, and it is in Latin they'd say in extremis. Like the truth is itself to an extreme. It doesn't, because you can't argue with it. Like,
well, wait a minute.
is.
You have your truth, but I
Yeah.
have my truth.
I was
And
not
how
going
can
to
you
say
tell
that.
me
That's
that my truth is wrong? Because I'm coming at it from my perspective, and my perspective is just as valid as your perspective. So don't
that
tell me
true?
that my truth is wrong.
Is that true? Is that true?
No, but how often do you hear this argument?
I hear it all the time, guys. I can, and the fascinating part is that this is what I think throws a lot of people off, because they don't challenge the messages that they hear. They use a partly truthful statement, and then they fluff it up around with some bullshit, So when people are consuming it, they're like, well, but this makes sense. This sounds reasonable because, okay, one sentence out of the whole thing. And we've seen these kinds of statements with you, Eamma, right? We've been analyzing the content before. So you can notice one part of the sentence is true, but then the rest of it is just BS.
I don't know who said it, but it was said, or I've heard it said, the most convincing lie is 80% true.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've heard it a slightly different way. The better the lie, the more truth there is in it.
Okay, same thing.
Yeah.
It's like the devil himself.
Yes.
Yes, Nick. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I
So-
did bring that connection too in the article that I wrote when I hear the devil's message through the content creators who are grifting, who are sending the emotional stuff to people. Yeah, go ahead, Plutarch. Sorry, I interrupted you.
Well, so there's another aspect that we are aware of in social media, but I don't think it's well understood, and that is the aspect of content moderation.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's kind of what Steve was starting to talk about is well, what happens if they start shifting that Overton window around a bit? What happens if and everyone wants they come into two camps again because humans love binaries. One camp says no, moderation is it's not I'm not going to use the term political isn't complete here, but that's like the moderation doesn't have a specific goal other than to remove certain bad content. And then you ask them what bad content is, and we find out that the other is the other sort of view that I find that I think is equally incorrect is there is a cabal of people who are deciding that this is what content should and shouldn't be. And the answer is, as we were discussing earlier, neither of those. So when you get hired as a content moderator at, say, Facebook, you are not hired on your political leanings. They don't know, and they can't ask actually by law, and they don't. I've read some interviews of people who've done content moderation. However, what you can do is you can make sure that you hire from groups of people that you know. So, for example, a lot of content moderators at Facebook are female.
Of course.
Like a lot.
Yes,
And
right.
they tend to live in certain areas of the country, like, oh, I don't know, Southern California. And so so there is no cabal out here saying, well, we have to, we have to, moderate content this exact way. But what can happen is, and this is, I'm not a huge fan of conspiracy theories, but I have to admit sometimes that if you get a large group of like-minded people together who just naturally think the same way, it can look a lot like a conspiracy theory.
Mm-hmm.
And so the content moderators at Facebook, for example, all tend to think the same way. And they're going to moderate content in a broadly similar way to each other.
Okay, I agree with that. But
So what about
the people who set up the algorithm or the choice of where to hire the people, where to place these moderation centers, probably have some motive, like we'll place it here, we'll hire this type of person, we'll guide this, we'll put a few general guidelines and restrictions in, and we know what the outcome is. So it's entirely possible that there is a motivation of those above in positions of control that they are influencing what happens.
Right. I'm talking about
government and corporate interference that we all experienced 3 or 4 years ago.
But again, that's a large group of people that they all more or less demanded that the government do it, and that large group doesn't have to be a majority. The government wanted to do that anyway, and some of it was actually mandated by our own laws from before. So, for example, under the takings clause of the U.S. Constitution, the government, if they're going to order you to do something, they must provide just compensation for it.
Mhm.
Now, just compensation can be interpreted rather loosely, but it was interpreted as if you take this PPP quote unquote loan, not a loan, then you are considered to be justly compensated for us ordering you to shut down your business. So is that a conspiracy, or was that the government actually doing what they were by law required to do? Okay. What really happened was people demanded the lockdowns. And speaking from experience, having gone through this as, somebody who's been involved with businesses that were considered essential, people were going to lock down no matter what. They did this to themselves because social media has a contagion factor. It's actually built into how the algorithm works. And so they started to believe that they were literally going to die from the cold. I know, not a popular thing to say, but okay. So was that the fault of the government, or was that the fault of the people? And the government just reacted.
Maybe it was a little bit of both.
Mhm.
Right. Exactly.
So what is a conspiracy?
I think a lot of people think that a conspiracy is a small group of people who are actively pushing an agenda, who they get together, they have planning meetings, and they keep it secret. So that the conspiracy part is they have to keep it secret, and you can't know what they're planning.
That's not really true. I'm involved in a conspiracy 5 days a week because I work for my employer and we're all working together to make things, to get the groceries delivered, to make money. I'm doing my part. Others are doing their part. I'm not in the planning, but I fully support the mission and I'm on board with that. So I'm conspiring with my company to make them successful, and then they reward me in the process.
Sure.
So, conspiracies happen. They're around. Okay, I'm in my church, and I'm conspiring, and I think the same as all the people in my church. And we want to expand our mission and have other people believe as we do. That's a conspiracy in the broader sense. And so you get this narrow viewpoint, and people forget that, there's conspiracies all over the place. It's whenever a few people work together for a common goal.
Well, there you go, Nick. The church is a conspiracy theory now.
The rulers do conspire together against the king and his anointed.
They do. By the way, sheep. By the way, sheep. Yes, that was one part of the Constitution that the government wanted to follow probably for their own reasons. But that's, yeah, I won't get started on that. Anyway, so, and content moderation. So, for example, Elena was talking about, this person got me reported and blocked. Well, one of the things that I enjoy about the new Twitter, I'm still going to call it Twitter, guys. It's not X, it's Twitter. Sorry, Musk. Is that their moderation when he bought them, it got. I'm going to say it got more balanced, but that's really not what he did. He took his thumb off the scale, and that's it. I watched somebody get banned for posting some content where I'm like, yeah, okay, you probably went a little too far there.
Yeah.
Okay, like you're actually, threatening somebody now. Okay, don't do that. But on an X, Twitter, you can go back and forth, both sides now. However, in some ways, that has made Twitter harder to use. I'm not going to say that's bad. You just have to spend more time sifting through the crap. Whereas with platforms like YouTube and Instagram, if a favored group reports something, that favored group is going to be responded to much quicker and in a much more positive to them outcome than a disfavored group. And like, we know that, but we don't talk about it. We don't talk about the effect that has on the Overton window of what we get to see.
Hey, one question on that. Is the truth to be found somewhere within the Overton window, or would that violate the law of exclusion of the middle?
I would say that the Overton window and the truth have nothing to do with each other. See, I view the truth as I view the truth as something that exists regardless of how we're allowed to view it.
Like the clock, a clock is an unwound clock is right twice a day. So,
Oh, does 2 + 2 still equal 4 if humanity was wiped out and no one was there to think of it?
My personal answer to that is yes. 2 + 2 is still 4. 2 and 2 are labels that we give for 2 objects plus 2 objects. That means you have 4 objects. The label that I use, and I think people get caught up on that, is irrelevant, because look at all the different languages. Spanish, dos y dos. 2 and 2 is 4. The label changed. The outcome did not. So if there is no humanity, well, there is no human label, but the outcome is the same. And this is what I mean when this is a great example of how the truth exists regardless of whether or not we can even see it, because the window allows us to or not.
Good answer. That's what I was hoping you would say.
Well, but you have to teach people that. And Elena and I were having a conversation, and Nick, you might find this interesting. We were talking about how Christianity actually gave us modern science. We don't want to talk about that, but the early Christians, they wanted to know God's world better, and they said, okay, well, what is the best method? Like there it wasn't like we are going to sit down and have a convocation and we're going to figure out how to do science, but they as a group realized that in order to know God's world better, they would have to spend some time and figure out how to actually look at the world. And then I got into how we've perverted science and whatnot, but
it's no longer a university anymore, because it's a united truth, in different disciplines, and
well,
and of course,
right.
theology was the queen of the sciences, or king of the sciences, either way.
Right. So science was created by Christians to study God's world. I think it was because they viewed that it was a command of God to or like they interpret. I forget which part of the Bible they interpreted as a command to I might even be going back to Adam and say, subdue the world. And to subdue the world, you have to understand it first.
That's correct.
Oh, hey, I got it right. But then we were talking about, okay, well, so if we're going to do this, the science thing, science requires that it requires 2 sort of competing, not observations, but competing principles. The first principle is that we can only find the truth by observing and looking for the truth. And that whatever truth, and the second principle is that whatever truth we find, our interpretation of it will be imperfect.
Mm.
Okay.
Yes, but
who
most
says
people
it's-
eventually stumble across the truth, but then they pick themselves up and carry on as if nothing happened.
Oh, sure.
What does Romans 1 say about the truth? They suppress it. You know, the truth is objective. The truth is true, whether one recognizes it or not. But man, as a Christian, I say, yeah, man, I think this is the right view. But the Bible says, man, in his, sin, his unrighteousness, he suppresses the truth.
We do, because the truth is inconvenient to our belief systems. That's my view anyway, and so we suppress it because we don't like it. But yes, Steve, you and Nick are saying kind of the same thing in different ways. Steve, you said, oh yeah, they'll trip over the truth and they'll skip right over it. And yeah. So what social media allows us to do is it allows us to use the group to tell ourselves that when we trip over that truth, that truth wasn't really true because the group told me that it isn't true.
Confirmation bias.
Right.
Well, yeah, and it's like you trip over the truth, and then a bunch of women run in and, oh, did you fall down? Did you skin your knee? Okay, we'll kiss it, make it better. Okay, now do you feel better? Okay, now carry on and do what you were doing.
Right.
Hey, Elena, you have any comment there?
I do. Like I said before, guys, I sometimes get so frustrated with women because they don't realize that they are the cause to their problems, and they are the ones who create a lot of mess for themselves, and not just for themselves, but for their children and for our society. And a lot of things will have to happen in order for them to start even questioning and challenging whether what they are doing actually works and see the outcomes of it.
An observation. This, our discussion today is less about the effects of social media and it's more so about how to analyze social media and kind of guard yourself against being swept away, how to deal with it.
That might have been what I was actually going for. So this conversation is actually my fault.
Oh, great. Well, okay, you get the credit then.
Do women particularly struggle with this hive mentality?
Yeah. Nick just quietly rolling the grenade into the middle of the room there.
That's what I do.
Well, but yes, they do. And there is a reason that women use social media to a far higher degree than men do. And no, it's not just because men have to work and provide, resources. There's lots of single women out there who are working jobs too. No. Social media is a place where you can, because remember how we were talking about how the algorithm works earlier? Social media is a place where you can go to confirm to yourself that, oh, no, that truth you tripped over. No, that's not really the truth. No, you keep speaking your truth, girly.
That's when you speak truth to power.
That's such a Steve statement there. He's our truth to power guy.
That's when I speak my truth to your power. Let me restate that.
So, but yes, what I'm hoping that people can take away from this, Steve, is this idea of being very careful with the content you consume, being very careful to understand how that content is being curated in ways that you're probably not even thinking about. Notice how I didn't talk about active forms of curation, like going in and, into Facebook and saying, I want to see this. I don't, want to, because you can tell Facebook, I don't want to see more of this. I can right click on a video here on YouTube and I can say, not interested, don't recommend channel anymore. Like, they give you these tools, but those are choices that you're making. You're going to make them. Let's talk about the ways that the world is shaped around you, not necessarily by your explicit actions, but by what you choose to consume yourself. What you choose to consume determines not just what you see, but what other people see.
Yeah.
And this is something I've been thinking about a lot this week, is what I call the rise of the sociopathic content creator.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're on YouTube and you just want to get more subs and more views, there's a script you follow. And the script is basically come up with, as Eamma said earlier, it's a great observation, come up with ways to generate ever increasing dopamine hits for your viewers.
Like a casino.
Dopamining. That's a
It's
really
like
good
the
word
thing.
for it.
Yes.
Figure out where you're going to be on this spectrum. Right, left,
Mhm.
conservative, progressive. What's your target market? And then just target those people and give them dopamine hits. And then your viewership will grow and you'll be a influencer, a successful content creator. That's what you're saying, right,
Yeah,
Plutarch?
yes, exactly. But here's the deal. You're not helping anybody except yourself. You are not improving the situation in the lives of those around you. And that's why I call it sociopathic. It's not narcissistic in the sense of, there are narcissistic content creators, don't get me wrong, but the plan to get more views and likes is not a narcissistic plan, it's a sociopathic plan. Figure out how to give more people exactly what they want. Well, the easiest way to do that is blood sport. And I often do think about gladiatorial combat in Rome. Yes, I'm thinking about Rome, y'all. But you give them that blood sport of, well, we're just going to go out here and we're just going to say the most extreme version of whatever, as Steve said, pick your point on the spectrum and go for it. And then we're just going to give you the most extreme version. And we talk about porn, and in my opinion, this sort of content is worse than porn because it has that veneer of acceptability, but it hits the exact same centers of the brain, but it does so without it. You don't have any of the shame. You don't have any of the sort of negative aspects that like with porn, you kind of know that what you're doing really isn't a good idea. With this, you don't, because you agree with that person. You're like, yeah, man, you keep going. Yeah, man, I want. Yeah, go ahead, Nick.
Are we talking about certain like revenge porn stuff we see in some of the manosphere?
I might be hinting at some of the nastier aspects of the manosphere there. Yes. But
these hoes accountable. Yeah.
Well, I mean, historically,
that's so emotional based. You're looking for the emotional hit, and that's what Eamma said. That's the emotional and a dopamine hit. Hey, the dopamine hit makes me feel good. That's that's soothing my emotions and giving me that confirmation bias that I'm right. And now I don't have to challenge myself, and I don't have to learn, and I can just be content with my beliefs.
But it's also why we're so dissatisfied with our real lives as well, because we're seeing these carefully curated lives online on opinions and stuff, but they don't match actually
Mhm.
with the real life. And because we've
Mhm.
had that dopamine feeding us, once you then step back into your real life, you've got that dopamine crash.
Yeah. Dopamine
So
is an
it's no
anesthetic.
wonder that depression and everything is on the rise, is it really?
Yeah.
Not,
Well,
yeah,
I'd
I
like
don't
to
wonder.
offer a different model
Okay.
that might help you. Okay, we're always okay. I'm going to use politics here for a minute. You
Go
got
for it.
the left and the right, the liberals and the conservatives. And somewhere I'm on the spectrum. This is reality. It's all on one plane. And everybody thinks in two dimensions. And so I came up with this idea. Where do I fall on this plane? I don't. I'm orthogonal. Remember your geometry? I'm up here. I'm at a right angle. I'm up here, and I can look down on both of these and then have a bird's eye view of how each one reacts. And I guess that makes me off in La La Land.
Is it La La Land though? Is it?
I'm just teasing I'm just kind of throwing it out
Yeah.
there. It's just a different way of looking. And I can be totally unique. I don't have to be on this left-right spectrum. I can just have my own viewpoints. And sometimes I'm in agree with the conservatives, sometimes the progressives, and sometimes neither. And sometimes, people are going to wonder, how the hell did you come up with that? Hey, but it works for me.
There's one side, then there's the other side, and then there's God's side, as I like to say. So there's truth. That's what I say, God's side, and
Mhm.
I'm with whatever side that's on that, to the best of my ability.
But God gave us a brain to go
Right.
look at these things. And back to the scientific method, the Apostle Paul went to Greece and he argued with the Greeks, and they had a philosophy more than a spirituality. And they used a lot of debate and logic and all this stuff. Well, that's kind of the beginning of the scientific method, to
Yes.
argue and debate these things. And so Christianity did embrace that. It wasn't all fluffy bunnies and, oh, just be spiritual and believe this. No, they went and they actually debated things and
Right.
explored what's true and what isn't. And it took them hundreds of years to arrive at, well, the belief in the Trinity. That wasn't there. It wasn't defined in biblical times. Wasn't defined until like 300 years later.
I think, like Gregory of Nazianzus said, it was in the Old Testament, but it wasn't. It's made more express in the New, but it's in the church age that actually becomes developed by putting it all together.
Mm.
Right. It wasn't understood. Even
Something
though
like
it was
that,
there,
something
it
like that,
wasn't
yeah.
understood.
Yeah, I can see that. I can agree with that. I've been reading about the church age lately too, and that's a fascinating thing that we don't need to get into right now. I mean, it's a fascinating topic, the concept of the church age. But yes, the my
I
goal
was
here,
Pentecostal, but
yes, and so I take the view of social media is, and this is something that I want to caution people. Social media is like any other tool in your toolbox.
Mhm.
Social media itself does not have a morality. The people who control the social media networks, they have a morality. The people who use and guide the algorithm, they have a morality. But how we choose to use that tool determines the outcomes that we're going to have from it. Why? Because social media is not the truth. The truth is, we can use social media to help us find the truth by finding like-minded folks to talk with, like we're doing right now. or we can use it to give ourselves a dopamine hit and essentially use it as a soothing blanket so that we don't have to think about the truth. And
Well,
that's up to us.
I'd like to add to that saying that it's not just enough to find like-minded people, because all you can be looking for is just the confirmation bias to your beliefs. And if there are certain things that you don't agree with, you need to keep challenging your beliefs and the messages around you, so that you don't blindly trust what you hear there. You find, like Eamma said, something that counterbalances it.
No, okay, I'm going to stop you there. It's not a counterbalance. This is what the red pill would call frame.
Yeah.
You need to have a solid core understanding of quote unquote the truth, and I'm air quoting that because I hate to say this, but different people are going to have different views of what the truth actually is. We shouldn't, but we do, and because of that, you need to test what you take in against what you know to be true. That is the core of the scientific method.
Okay, darling, I'm going to stop you here for a second, because if all people that were raised today, they know they've been consuming certain type of content, they know it to be true, like delusional women we are talking about on social media, they are going to say that, but this is the truth because it's easily accessible information in front of me.
Yes, they are. That's what I'm saying. Like Nick and I, we might agree on what the truth is. Steve and I and Nick, we all might agree on what the truth is, or something very similar. But that is not to say that there is not a block of people out there in the world who say that our truth is a bunch of, I hate to use the term our truth, but sort of what we say the truth is a bunch of hokum. Okay? There are people out there that are going to say that.
Like Pilate.
Yes. Exactly. So it's not it's not as simple as saying, oh, well, it's my truth versus your truth. This is why we test what we know to be true against what's coming in. And there does come a point where you're going to say, if you see the reason that the anti-truth crowd is what I'm going to call them, like social media, is because it does confirm that their truth is true, even when it's not.
Yes. Well, and this is why
a friend of mine just a couple days ago, a truck driver, we've known each other for 3 years. He's a very Christian, non-denominational guy. Grew up Catholic and converted or became non-denominational. And I'm Catholic. And we have the best discussions. And he said, you know what? You're such a good friend. And part of the reason is you and I don't agree on everything. So we get into these good-natured philosophical debates about religion and other things. We agree on most things. But I think he's decided, he's not going to convert me. And I'm not going to convert him. I give him time to explain his viewpoint. He gives me time to explain my viewpoint. And wow, it's challenging. And I learn stuff from it. And that's what he was telling me. He learns a lot from me being challenged or challenging him and him challenging me. That is a wonderful friendship because I love him as a brother, but I will challenge him.
Oh, this is why I'm saying that women need to be challenged, and they need to want to have that challenge. And without the challenge, they will be wrapped up with their delusions. They will be only looking for the confirmation bias, for the like-minded people.
So Nick, I have a question on this line for you, because I'm wondering if throughout history, the way that society was structured women didn't need to have that sort of challenge relationship that Steve described, because they either had somebody else who was taking care of that for them, like in a patriarchal structure, that would be the
Right.
guy,
Mhm.
or but there was some other thing that was taking care of that for them, and they could focus on other things that they wanted to do, like take care of their family. Like is that what we're kind of saying here?
Well, I'm not saying that women's minds shouldn't be challenged with the truth, that they
Yes.
should, but they're, I hate to say this, their nature is more not so focused on combating logical ideas. They're more kind of communal focused, I would say group focused and family focused.
Relational.
Relational
Which is
focused,
fine in my opinion. Like different people can fulfill different roles in society, but
Well,
you don't see a lot of like the Greek philosophers.
No, there are a
except
few women, but they
There
weren't
were
very
few,
many.
but not many.
Yeah.
Exactly.
except for in our society today, there are so many combative masculine women that it's like, okay, ladies, if you want to be masculine and independent and strong, then you need to turn the rational part of your brain to realize what reality actually is. Instead of see what I'm looking at it here is cognitive dissonance. Okay, they want to
Mhm.
be emotional creatures. They want to rely on their emotions when they feel like they have no choice, when they are victims. But yet they want to be strong, powerful, and independent. These two don't match with each other.
Well, I think what you're saying really is, women, if you want to be in this space, in this, in life as a man, you're going to have to act like men do. You're going to have these, hard, head knocking, logical, challenging things where you're going to be, where you're not going to feel very good necessarily all the time when somebody really challenges you. Right. Is I think that's what you're saying, and I agree. Like if a woman, and particularly in this modern era, look, women, if you want to join the debate, that's okay. We allow that now. Nick, I know you might have an argument about, like, okay, we shouldn't necessarily, take teaching from women, but if they want to be in the debate in modern culture, I think that the answer should be okay, but be aware of what it is that you're signing up for when you do this.
Right.
Well, and this is why we keep coming back to women want the authority but zero responsibility, because if they have to participate in this kind of debate, they'll have to have the logic, right? They'll have to rely on their neocortex brain function to overpower their emotions, the amygdala part of the brain, right? And they don't really want to do it. So they want like a shortcut without actually doing the hard work. They want to be like men. They want to be strong, independent like men, but they don't want to behave like men because it's easier for them to behave like women.
That's what social media does. It allows them to act like men, to think that they are challenging people, but then they can always put back on that dopamine blanket of social media and go find all the people that actually confirm their view.
Let me
Usually when
point
women
out the
enter
difference in thinking between thinking and feeling. Women pretty much judge everything by their experience.
Mm-hmm.
If you ask them to think about something, they go back and think about their experience and how would I feel about that, and then they apply it. Whereas if it's something new that they haven't experienced, you can't use experience to judge the future if you've not experienced it. You have to use logic and abstract thinking. It's a different thinking process. And that's where men excel, in this abstract. So we don't really rely on experience for projecting the future if the experience doesn't relate to that. Sorry to cut you off, Nick.
No, I was about to say is something very similar. I was saying that usually when you have a women enter the debate, their objections, I'm not saying always, but their objections tend not to be based on logic, but based upon, their feels and their experience, which is not, that's not an objective measure of truth.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that the conclusion that they arrive at based on feelings is always wrong. Sometimes it's a shortcut and they just get to the answer and a man thinks logically through it. And, 3 days later, after hours of thought, he says, oh, yeah, I agree.
Elena's actually done that to me. She gets there right away, and then I get there 3 days later, and she'll tell you about it. It's not always, but it does happen.
That's good. That's good. You arrive at the same thing through different means.
Well, that's also how the scientific method works a little bit. If you run a test and you run the same test the same way, you should get the same result, right? But then the next series of tests that we do is, can I arrive at the same result a different way?
So this reminds me, some of my old marital spats that I had.
Oh boy.
It's just an observation. So I'd get upset about something, she'd be upset about something, and she had demanded that I accept her position right there and then, and without any thought. I'm like, no. And because I wanted to take my passion, my current feelings out of the picture to come to a conclusion. And so it'd be like a day later, I'd be like, well, I thought about it, and sometimes I'd agree, sometimes I'd disagree, but sometimes they want their feelings to be right, and it's confirmed their bias, but it doesn't take into account, objective thought, logic. So,
Well,
and then she'll say, Nick,
that's where
see, you should have just listened to me.
Yeah, men can throw that. That's what makes a man effeminate, is that he's controlled. He's controlled like a woman by his feelings, and he makes rash decisions.
Absolutely.
Like
and sometimes I come back and I say, Elena, no, you're wrong, and here's why. And she's actually pretty good about listening and going, oh, okay, I hadn't thought about that. But if it's 2-3 days later, she's probably calmed down then too a little bit, and she can hear it. Like one of the great things about slowing down, analyzing rationally, sleeping on it, as we used to say,
right?
Exactly, is that you come back to it the next day and you're not as emotional about it. And here's a really fun fact, guys. You don't need the social media as much if you can think about it rationally, come back tomorrow, and you're not as emotional, so you don't need the confirmation bias of social media.
Plus, when you slept on it, your mind was working in the background on the problem, dreaming, whatever. How often in the morning do you come up with a completely new insight and say, wow, okay, what, did social media tell you that? No.
Hi, sheep. Unfortunately for her, I have to sharpen the knives.
Well, Plutarch, did this discussion today work out just as you planned it?
It did. It actually worked out better than I thought it would, and I'm excited to see the people that we had here to have the discussion today, because I was actually hoping to get both Steve and Nick, and then Eamma, you just threw out the dopamine bomb that I was hoping somebody would pick up.
Somebody would do it, yeah. Well, we've talked with Eamma about dopamine hit before, so yeah.
I'm not feeling like I'm using social media correctly. My feed is just full of nature and volcanoes and yoga. All right, some of the yoga stuff is bullshit, but yeah, I mean, generally, volcanoes and nature isn't, it's YouTube, on the other hand, is just full of shit for me. But I spend most of my time watching a live stream of a volcano that's erupting in Iceland at the moment.
Okay, but Eamma, What did I say that has been getting most of my watch hours right at the beginning?
Planes, Heathrow live streams.
Heathrow live streams.
Have you
What?
seen the guy that he's usually stationed at the airports watching the planes as they come in on high winds, and his reactions are brilliant.
Yeah. Yeah, I know exactly who you're talking about. That's one of the streams I watch. There's a RoboCam. It's no stream. I can just hear the airplanes. I can actually identify the airplanes by the different engine sounds.
But with what you're saying, like, you know, what you watch is what you're then suggested. Because I've been watching the Iceland live stream, and there's so many cameras all over Iceland, you can get lots of views of the same volcano. I'm having other live streams now suggested to me, and some of them are beautiful. Yeah, none of it's bullshit. I mean, these are all like Florida Keys and stuff, you know, the fish.
Yes.
But yeah, really lovely live streams. And I was watching storm chasers the other night, and, you know, chasing the tornadoes.
But you said you were using social media wrong. Honestly, honestly, I think it's
fantastic.
I know, but honestly, this kind of, you know, where you are experiencing, like, I can't be in London, but I love airplanes, and I love big airplanes, you know, like your what we call wide bodies.
Mm-hmm.
London gets a lot of those airplanes.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I can sit there, I can listen, I can go to work. This is, in my opinion, I'm not going to say that it has no sort of impact on you, but if it's a choice between watching airplanes slowly drift into land, and I can rate the landings, and I can listen, I can even hear the birds chirping sometimes, so I get a little bit of outside noise, or I can listen to whatever the latest drama is in the Red Pill or the Feminist, or I can listen to whatever the latest political drama is. Do you think I sleep better at night listening to airplanes for a couple hours before I go to bed, or listening to the latest political drama?
Probably the planes.
Right.
When you're watching something like that, your brain is not fully engaged with that stuff. It's thinking about other things. And
I was working last night.
That's very beneficial.
Yes.
Well, I mean, rudely, I've been watching a live stream the whole time of but I mean, in the live chat on this, there's actual geologists and volcanologists. I've actually just done a quick course through the University of Iceland on monitoring volcanoes and magma movement. And that's come from watching this live stream. So this has expanded my brain so much.
Family's probably watching the live stream right now. They're all geophysicists and geologists.
Well, but see, this is why I say that social media itself isn't good or bad. It's a tool. It's how you use it. And what I think is interesting, Eamma, is that you have actually, without any suggestion on our part, just as a result of being around us and what we've talked about, over the years, your usage patterns of social media have probably changed. I mean, it doesn't sound like you've been watching, you know, nature live streams the whole time you've been on YouTube. But that's both an example of how the Overton window can be shifted around you. When this is the influence aspect of social media, but how you interact with it and how you interact with other people is going to impact what you choose to listen to. And I would honestly say that if I had, would choosing between streams of, a volcano or airplanes or, something that you're interested in, but it's kind of in the background, you can just listen to it, versus getting yourself wound up about whatever the latest drama is it's beneficial for you, but it's also beneficial for other people around you, that you are not caught up in a constant stream of dopamine hits and emotion. You can actually be that sort of voice of reason in your group, even offline, because you don't have that dopamine hit shunt straight into your arm.
There's people that I've hung out. I'm distancing myself, but there's people in my real world that I just don't understand them, because everything they do is just bullshit. It's all societally acceptable, and let's all go clubbing and drinking, and it's and buying into that to not be offensive to accounting sheep. They're all just sheeple. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
I'm not. I've always stood outside of the crowd, and been a bit more of a free thinker and a bit more of a free spirit. So I don't get sucked in. Well, I got sucked into a volcano, not literally.
Well, I'd like to compliment Eamma on her approach to this conversation. Unlike a feminist, she's not coming in here and saying, well, I need to tell these men what they should be thinking and feeling and blah, 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 giving her 2 cents. But she has had some really good contributions to this. And then she just sits back and listens. And then we engage her and she brings in something else. That is a great approach. And if more women could learn that, the world would be a much better place, because there's not that much conflict between men and women. I mean, I just find it kind of delightful.
Thank you.
Yeah. It's been a pretty low conflict stream today about a pretty divisive topic.
I love Eamma. I even mentioned you, my dear, in the article.
I know. I was really touched by your words. Thank you.
Oh, you're so welcome. Yeah, I'm so glad that we are in touch. And
I didn't like being called an older woman, but that is factual. So
I figured, I suspected. Okay, shall I call her? How shall I call her?
Well, but to Steve's point, Eamma, you accepted that. You don't. I understand that it doesn't feel good. I do. But
I'm nearly 50, so it's true. I am a more mature woman, but yeah. Inside, you still feel like in your mid-20s, but no. Fact is, I am an older woman, so it's fine.
Well,
but you're not as an old geezer like me.
You're not old. It's just age is just a number, isn't it? And it's how you feel inside.
And I also analyze content, right? I see how other older women behave and what messages they send out to younger women. It's just honestly, like Steve said, if we had more women behaving like you, our world would be a better place.
I think there's quite a few people that would disagree with that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Needs to be like me.
Oh. Yeah. So I mean, that's what I was. I mean, if we want to wrap it up now, we can. If we want to keep talking, we can too. But that was sort of my goal for the topic, was to hit the not just the various ways that social media can affect us, but also how we affect social media and how we can learn to maybe offset some of it a little bit. And some of it just comes down to how you use it, because that's how the algorithms work.
Well,
It's just like alcohol. How to consume social media responsibly.
Well, some people say don't consume alcohol at all.
Like Steve, don't have a presence. No YouTube channel.
Hey, I don't have a YouTube channel either.
That's right. Yeah.
See?
Are you better off? Or you're disconnected. You're able to look at you have a disconnect from.
I do.
Exactly.
I know what you're trying to say. I got you.
Yeah.
No, and I do, and it's one of the things that I really enjoy about it, because in this particular case, I have the option to interject myself when a topic comes up, like today. But next week we won't be sleeping in because we have to be somewhere. But normally I can just but then I can just no, if you guys want to talk about that, you guys do you. I'll let you guys talk about that. So, but then I can decide to say, oh, well, this is one that I think I can. For me, it's more about, can I bring value to the conversation?
Mhm.
And yes, occasionally I do feed ideas to Elena, and this is one that I did feed to her. And yes, guys, I'm giving away the inside baseball of how content is created a little bit here. So
Yeah.
I implement a lot of your ideas, guys. If you share your thoughts and observations, and if there are certain topics that you'd like us to cover, please share. Okay. You can always reach out, send an email, or leave a comment in the comment section if you'd like
Hey.
us to talk about certain
And if they
topics.
throw out a good idea, bring them on. They
Yeah.
can even participate. That'd be fun.
absolutely.
I was inviting that girl who blocked me to share her piece with us. She was all about self-love, and I was saying, do you want to come over and talk a little bit about it? And she was like, nope. And then she blocked me. I told you I would be very nice to you. I would just ask you questions, and I'll be very polite, and we'll
Well,
just listen.
she's afraid that you're going to disrupt her, that you might challenge her, and that disrupts the dopamine stream.
I mean, if you're telling her that she's talking shit on Instagram, I mean, what are you going to be like in real, on a live stream? I say that with love and respect, of course.
This is a great comment. Oh my goodness, I love this comment.
Oh no.
Yep.
Buckshot. Thank you.
Colonel Buckshot. I think that's probably, sorry, Sheep, but this might be the comment of the stream. They want to keep men angry and hurt and coming back for more.
Yeah.
Yes. If we are if we are ever going to move beyond where we are today, and if we are ever going to improve the situation, not just for men but for everyone, we have to get past being angry and hurt, and we need to sit down, have rational conversations, and figure this out. I have ideas, but
absolutely. But everybody goes through that, especially in divorce, what they call, I don't know, red pill rage, or the anger and hurt. Hey, I've been there, done that. I bet Nick would say, yep, he's experienced that, but don't stay stuck there.
Yes. I've experienced it too. You just can't stay there. And the social media you feed yourself wants you to stay there.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there is another comment that he sent. Once you become red pill and unplugged, I believe it's important to wean yourself from the content and move forward.
I can relate to that comment with, I mean, obviously not the red pill side, but the with the cult side. Once I'd come out of that, I found myself on an ex-witness forum. And you're still really immersed into that world. You know what the problem is and everything, but you're not really finding any solutions while you're still immersed into that world. And it's the same. I mean, does the red pill, as much as they come out with all the bad about women and everything, do they come out with any solutions to the problem?
Yes,
exactly. Yes.
Yes, it's always the same solution. And what is it, Elena?
Change the course.
Yes.
She put it for us. Thank you, Chef. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
but even then, like, if you shame them, but the laws are still protecting women, society is still supporting women, how much shame can you do so that it kind of sticks?
Shame is shame. Bring back shame. But Nick, you were going to say something.
Yeah.
So yeah, I encountered the red pill. I knew of it. Listened and read some of the content online before I got zeroed out. And then I really got into the red pill. Not people still say I'm somewhat angry. Yeah, maybe not more about my kids than anything, but
it sounds like you've got rights to be angry, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's more about the kids. I mean, let's be honest. It's the kids. Um, angry at women? No, not really. Just angry at the system for my kids? Absolutely.
Yeah.
But you do learn the content. But what I did is I took that content and I've brought that content back into what I was doing from the get-go. Was like I was promoting, an ordered society, a patriarchy, a Christendom, and I'm able to apply that and build a better life for myself and help others. So
Yeah.
Well, and you participate and add some viewpoint and wisdom to the debate about how things should be, and hopefully that helps other people. And I'm
add a little
glad we
humor
don't all
to it.
agree on everything, because we need to challenge other people to think.
Well, I think some of these guys that get angry, they also need to just have a little humor about it after a while. You're like, yeah, there's nothing you can do to change it. And like, I'll listen to some of George Bruno's stuff and I'll get a good laugh every once in a while. I'm like, yeah, it kind of helps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Guys, if understand that and I'm speaking to the audience here, understand that it is your need to fuel that dopamine that drives social media, and then social media drives your need for more dopamine. And if you've as Colonel Buckshot said, it is important to wean yourself off the content. Now, I mean, my red pill story happened years and years and years ago. I was done with the rage before I ever got into this space, and I'm still here. Why? Not because I'm looking for a dopamine hit anymore, but because I am looking to help other men who have been zeroed out, who are still in that red pill rage phase, because I want to be able to point to them to say, okay, but there is a world after the rage, and it is beneficial for you to get there. And
Yes.
That to me is because I started getting involved with this about the time that Fresh and Fit were getting really popular, and I found myself getting sucked into that content. That rate. Oh yeah, these horrors, they're getting shamed on YouTube in front of hundreds of thousands. Yes, this is, and then I went, but eventually, eventually I say, but actually fairly quickly I realized, this is, but I've already been here. For me, this is already over. Like I kept asking, this is good. We should be shaming, whores, but what comes next?
Yeah, what comes next? And when you know that they get clout from it, they get even more attention, they show up, it's like a business expense for them. They stay through a few hours of humiliation from Myron and Fresh, and then when they come out of it, more guys are throwing themselves at these women. These women, as a result of these shows, have more options. And I'm not saying that these shows are meaningless and useless. They have a purpose, but you can't just keep staying there.
Well, I'll tell you what the final purpose is. Once you're through the rage and you're delighted with seeing them shamed, then step back and then watch a few more, and you're going to find out that every time these women think the same, they will not answer yes or no. They'll go on a big long thing and never answer the question, and they'll never tell the truth to another woman. And once you realize that all women in general behave this way, okay, that's your lesson. Now there's nothing more you can learn from watching it. Really, nothing more.
Yeah. Well, it's a good invitation for women to be on those shows. If and you see, they always have a stream of women showing up, and it's like yeah, women realize what they are doing. They show up on these shows because in the end, women win anyway. Even if you shame them for a few hours, it's not going to solve the problem for men per se, because in order to solve the problem for men, we need to dig in deeper. We need to challenge the institutions. We need to do the actual work. And just talking about it is not solving anything, really. It just gives women more of what they want. It gives them more attention,
Well,
and you're kind of wasting your time there.
so somebody asked one of those women who went on Fresh and Fit, why they did it, and they said she was an OnlyFans girl. She said, "You should have seen what happened to my subs. I like doubled overnight."
Mm-hmm.
These women know what they're doing. They don't mind getting absolutely clowned on because they're going to make more money at the end of the day.
As I said, business expense for them to get more money later on. Yeah. They can even cry. They can squeeze one tear out of their eyes during that show to give Fresh and Fit more traffic. But in the end, it's like, come on. You know what women are after, and you are feeding them exactly what they want. It's not really even solving the feminist problem. You're not actually fighting feminism. You're just kind of adapting and like maybe enjoying it. So yeah.
So what was that show that I forgot what they had, that Jerry Springer show. So this is what happens when you take, Jerry Springer type tactics, but then each person that goes on the show has their own show. And so it's like a feedback loop of the entertainment springs more views for their station, basically. So it's free advertising.
Oof, Nick with
through the means of entertainment.
Oof. I mean, yes, we have democratized Jerry Springer.
Yep.
Oh. And now I want to go crawl under a rock and stay off social media for the rest of the weekend.
Yeah.
Well, that was the extent of what I was hoping to say, and I mean, I am very grateful that everyone had caught on to the direction I was trying to go. Thank you for calling that out, Steve.
Well, we got a good group here. I like our discussions because everybody kind of contributes a lot and different viewpoints, but never really gets contentious.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah. Well, guys, if you want to join us, you can always reach out. You can DM me on Instagram. And if you'd like us to do some reactions, you can send me the reels on Instagram that you'd like us to react to. And yeah, next week we are not around. So the week after that, we will see what we come up with. It takes us a few days to sort out the topic and then do our homework and prepare for it. So yeah, if you'd like us to dive into a specific topic, let us know in the comments or reach out. You can also be a guest speaker here and debate us. I know that Steve was looking for a debate, and I personally, I don't mind. It's just if you behave and, just try to be respectful, we would welcome you here, okay? Yeah, I think if nobody has anything else to add, we are pretty much done here.
So is everybody good?
Yeah.
I'm good.
Cool. Well, okay, let's wrap it up then. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Remember to follow Nick with, what's the name of your YouTube channel? Nick.
Just search for Christianity Unplugged. You'll see me.
Well, but you have to add Nick in front of it, because if you just search for Christianity Unplugged, it's going to be somebody else's channel. So add Nick, Christianity Unplugged, and yeah, follow him. Remember to like the video, share and subscribe. You are helping us to share the truth with others. Yeah, and we'll see you all next time. Let me take us out here. Take care, everyone. Bye.
Bye.